Hello, dear friends, my lovely audience. Welcome to the East West Show. Jack Chow on the East West Show with ICT TV. With me today is a new friend from Monterey Park PD, Division Chief, Mr. Matthew Haylock, and one of the heroes that come from Monterey Park. We all rely upon for safety, especially at this moment when there is such fire going on, though. We seem to be all of a sudden realize, oh my God, they are the one protecting us. So with that as a lead line, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Chief Haylock is a Monterey Park Department firefighter. For how many years have you been there?
I've been there for 20 years.
Oh, 20,
Yes.
20 years.
Yes.
The age of my son. That's a lot of years.
That's right.
That's a lot of
Yes,
years. All right,
yes.
good.
Thank you.
Good. And how do you like your job?
It's a very rewarding job, and I can't think of doing anything else. I've always wanted to be a firefighter ever since I was a little boy, and I think if you ask any firefighter, that's pretty much the same answer you get from everybody. It's just a job that I always wanted to have, and I'm very lucky to have the job that I have.
All right. So for 20 years, though, I would say that's a time long enough to know the word that contains in the two words of firefighting.
Yes.
Right. So how do you understand the words of firefighting, please?
How do I understand them?
Yeah.
Well, I look at firefighting as the ability to help people. And now, whether it be in an emergency situation, whether it be a fire or helping somebody who's injured, we swear an oath to protect our community. We protect the property with which they live in, but more importantly, we protect their life. And we're willing to risk our lives to do that. And it's not something that I look upon as something very lightly. It's a commitment to the community of Monterey Park, and we're trained accordingly so that we can approach any situation, whether it be a fire or a medical emergency or a traffic collision. We're trained to the highest degree so that we can help the community when they need it. When it's their worst day, we're there to help them to make it better. And that's what firefighting means to me.
Well, thank you, Chief. Thank you for that strong statement, even though in a very simple language, but it's even more heartfelt that way.
Thank you.
Is to serve, to protect, right? To serve, protect, and to save.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Those three words.
Exactly.
3 words, right?
Exactly.
And correct me if I'm wrong, there's a saying, they say if you put the police officers and the firefighters together, though, you see police officers always have their moment of defense. At least they have the chance of a shoot back for their protection, so far and so forth, right? For firefighters, do they have that moment?
Well, our moment is fighting a fire.
Yeah, fighting a fire. Yeah.
That's when someone calls 911. We respond to fight a fire. That's our defensive mode. That's when we go to perform our duties. And a lot of times we don't know what we're approaching. It can come in as a unknown type of call, and so that's why we rely on our training, because sometimes it's the unknown that we're approaching. In today's world, we have buildings that have chemicals in them that maybe we don't know about, and there's a fire there. So that's where our sort of defense comes in, if you want to relate it to the police department. That's how we rely on our training, our equipment. And we're fortunate enough in Monterey Park that the city council, the city management recognizes the value of both the police department and the fire department. And when it comes time for equipment that we need to basically defend our community, they provide us with that. And so we're very fortunate to have the best of the equipment possible.
Okay, all right, very good. And of course, am I right by saying, as a police officer, you at least have a chance to shoot back?
Right.
Right. Who do you shoot at?
We don't shoot anybody.
You don't even have a chance to, right?
Right.
You don't even have a chance to.
We don't have a chance to.
Right. Good. Now, looking at the television, though, and also we heard about how they describe how fast it burns. It says that the most condensed time, 0.75 seconds, takes a area size as a football field. right? So I am thinking of myself. With me, if I'm a firefighter, I see I have fire in the front, and I look around, there's no fire behind me. Though with a hose, I walk in, right? And then next thing I know, they started my back with a speed of 80 football fields per minute. No? And of course, I'm surrounded in 2 seconds by fires. So
Right.
what if that happens to firefighters?
Well, that's when we rely on our training. And our training gives us the skills and abilities to remain calm, most importantly, rely on our skills and the equipment we have, because we know how fast fire moves. And just like you said, it can be on us in a moment's notice, within seconds. So we have to, if we're talking about a wildland setting, like we're dealing with right now out in the wildland where these big fires are taking place, we set up things prior to even beginning the firefight. We have to have what we call a lookout, somebody who's going to watch and make sure that weather changes happen, we know about them. We have communications. We have to be able to talk to each other. I have to be able to communicate to my crew. I have to be able to communicate to the incident commander. And then most importantly, an escape route. I have to maintain an escape route. How do I get out of here if things go bad?
Oh yeah, of course.
And that's something that we, and then safety
In other words,
zones.
you get a way out before you get in, knowing that I should get out here.
Absolutely. If you see any fire on the news at a commercial building or a house, and you see firefighters on the roof, there's always 2 ladders, one on one side and one on another side, always. And that is for an escape route. If we can't get to the ladder we came up on because a fire breaks out on the roof and we're unable to make it to that ladder, we have another ladder that's right on the same building that we can get off the roof if we have to. Same thing with interior. We got to make sure we have a way out if we make our way in.
Of course.
Right.
You're fighting with your own life.
Absolutely.
Right?
And we have the skills and ability we go through training almost probably twice a year, if not more, on how to get out of a room. If I was trapped in this room and I couldn't get out, I know how I could get out. And I'm going to break through the wall with an axe, and I know how I can get through the structural members so I can save my life and maybe someone else's life. And so we train, we put ourselves in the most stressful situations realistically so that when the real thing does happen, we're prepared for it and we know what to do.
Well, regardless how you prepare yourself, though, there are always moments when somebody caught up. Well, when that happens, devastatingly, you lose one of your comrades.
Absolutely.
Right? My problem is that we people, only think about our fireman when there is a fire.
Right.
When the fire is gone, so we totally forget you. I'm sorry. We do that.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
So do you realize that?
We know, yes, and we're okay with that because we know that, like I said, we swore to protect our community regardless of the circumstances. We're there to protect them, and whether or not they think of us on a daily basis, what we want our community to know is when they pick up the phone to call 911, we're there. And it is unfortunate that it takes big incidences, big fires, a big earthquake. If we want to talk about earthquakes.
Oh yes, of course.
We only start preparing after we have a big one, and then we kind of forget about it. And we're on the verge. They say it's going to happen. We're going to have a big earthquake, and we're constantly stressing preparedness. You got to be prepared for when this earthquake hits. But until that actual thing happens, a big fire, a big earthquake, people tend to get complacent and think, we're okay. And we're always in the community stressing preparedness. That's our big thing. And our motto is, be prepared, not scared. We want you to have the skills and your preparation so that when the time comes that you're in a position that you need to evacuate or to maybe help a loved one who's trapped, you're not scared. You know what to do. And so while we know that we kind of go in a cycle of we're at the forefront, firefighters are important, we're okay with going to the back knowing that we're still doing our job of educating our community, because that's what it's all about, is educating our community so that when something does happen, they're ready.
It's clearly understood to average the republic, to the average public though, it's a news on the television and when the news is gone, it's gone. But to somebody, but people at the department, it is a day-to-day ongoing job, right? People get trained every single hour of it.
Correct.
So my dear audience, is to bring this show to bring the awareness of our firefighter heroism. And also, we want to make it clear it is a season of Thanksgiving. We want all together express our thanks to our great firefighters. It is them, nobody else. It is them who prevents us, who protect us. Prevents us from seeing those devastating fires. For that, I give you a salute.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Let's take a short moment now. When we come back though, I need some advices for fire prevention, and we may stretch from that point on all the way to if I am caught in situation da 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 da. How about that?
Perfect.
Very good.
Perfect.
Stay with us. Hello, dear friends, my lovely audience. Welcome back to the show. My dear fellow the Angelinos, welcome back to the talk about fire. We have lots of fire in California. Number one, we never get a surprise when seeing drought, and on the other hand, we're not surprised by seeing fire. However, seeing fire this big for one season, though, and according to history, that's never before, right? So, and that of course gives us and then thinking about are we safe in areas. We have a Monterey Park. Monterey Park, what does Monterey mean, right? So, means lots of trees. So are we safe, right? So, to get to the answer, we have invited the division chief of Monterey Park, Division 6, and we have Chief Matthew Haylock. Welcome, sir.
Thank
back
you.
to the show.
Thank you.
Very good. So, simple question. The big question asked in a simple way, are we safe?
Well, with the Monterey Park Fire Department protecting you, you bet you are.
Okay.
And I would say that with every fire department.
I'm asking because I'm right now on the border of Monterey Park.
Sure,
Rosemead. Yeah.
sure. Yes, and I say that with confidence, knowing that whether you live in Monterey Park, you live in Rosemead, you live in wherever, we're there, meaning the fire department, to protect you. And we, like I said in the previous, we take that job very seriously. And so we're constantly educating our community in order so that they have the understanding how to protect themselves in conjunction with us being there as a backstop to protect them. And so, yes, you are safe.
Okay, we're safe. How many firefighters do we have in the department?
In Monterey Park, we have about 54 sworn personnel.
All right. Yeah. How many engines?
We have 3 fire stations with 3 engines, a truck company, meaning the ladder company, and then we also have 2 rescue ambulances.
I see,
paramedics on.
How many of you guys in one division?
We have 17 personnel on duty each day, covering all 3 stations.
All right, that's a big job duty to you.
It is.
Yourself,
It
right?
is.
Okay,
Yeah, correct.
Okay, now those are the basic we want
Sure.
to know about our fire department. I take yours as mine because I'm next door to it.
Absolutely.
Right? You can't get away from it without having to pass by my house.
Absolutely,
right?
and we call on our areas,
Vicinities.
LA County, Alhambra, Montebello. We call on them to assist us if we need help, and vice versa. We'll go help them when they need help. So we'll all work together.
Now it's got to be you because you're there, right?
Right.
Okay, now we understand that in terms of fire, though, in relation to fire, though, you would rather talk about the prevention than firefighting.
Correct.
Of course, firefighting is necessary, so necessary, but that would never replace prevention.
Correct.
How do you recommend? Right now, the holiday season is coming. How do you recommend, including Christmas, with the trees and everything?
Right.
And with the New Year, with the Chinese American, the Chinese festivals, the Asian Americans celebrate that. So, how do you recommend as fire prevention tips?
Well,
please.
what we say is any fire that's prevented is the best fire. And if we can prevent any type of fire, then we've done our job. With the holiday season, obviously, Christmas trees are always a big issue for us. And we do our best to get out the word of the best way to have a Christmas tree if you're going to have a live tree. Now, obviously, we'd want everybody to have artificial trees, and we wouldn't have to worry about this fire cause. But of course, my wife included, loves a real Christmas tree.
Yeah,
but
different
with that,
feeling, yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Feeling.
But with that,
and the smell,
and the
yes,
smell,
and the
absolutely.
Smell, yes,
you can't replace that. But with that comes a danger, and so keeping the tree constantly watered so it doesn't dry out. Because when it dries out is when it becomes a major fire hazard.
When you say water, do you see the bottom, the plate, or do you mean the whole whole tree? You want to spray them?
No, I mean it so that it's absorbed through the trunk. So you keep that base filled with water so that it's always hydrated. As soon as it becomes dry is when it becomes a hazard.
I see.
Right, and then of course with that, candles, lighting Christmas candles, that's a hazard. We always want to deter people from doing that because it just adds an additional risk, especially when you get close to the Christmas tree. Now, when we talk about the outside of our home, Christmas lights or holiday lights, sometimes people put them up and they use staple guns and they staple the wire to the house. And what that does is it compromises the wire and it exposes it and now becomes an electrical issue and a potential electrical fire.
It causes a leak of electricity.
Correct.
That causes the fire, sparkle.
A spark could cause a fire.
Or can ignite something for a big fire.
Absolutely. So those are things.
That reminds me of wires on the tree, though.
Same thing.
Well, the tree leaves are kind of needles are so dry.
Right.
And if something sparkles over there, that can also pose a fire danger.
Absolutely, and that goes back to when you begin to set up your tree, make sure that you inspect the wires and look at them for any type of exposed. If the sheeting around the wire is damaged, it's time to replace them. And fortunately, they're not that expensive, and so it's worth the extra money to make sure that you and your family are safe at home to replace those Christmas lights if they feel like they're
nowadays they
damaged.
have those the lights in the tube.
In the tube.
In a soft plastic tube, so you don't see the exposed wires.
Right.
That probably is the kind of a thing
It is much safer. Right.
Much safer.
Right.
Okay.
But we got to start with making sure your tree is watered appropriately.
I see.
Yeah,
I see.
absolutely.
And also, it's the Christmas season, or you call it the holiday season, also a dry season, right?
Right.
With the Santa Ana wind, which is helping from the other end. So.
Right.
So, and what else should we pay attention to as prevention, please?
For the holiday season? Well, you had mentioned the Chinese New Year, and then we have the traditional American New Year, where we gather, and that brings lots of people to a small area. So when you're in an area like that, just be aware of your surroundings, be aware of what's around you. And be careful because with thousands of people in one area, there's a potential for something to happen and people can get hurt if we try to exit one area. So just be aware of your surroundings. It's supposed to be a joyous time of year, a happy time of year, and we want that to be the case. And that's why we wanted people to be aware of Christmas tree hazards around their home. Too much debris in their home. If they, it's just a hazard that we could avoid, then we want people to do that. And when you're outside, just be aware of your surroundings.
Yeah. Speaking of that, though, Chinese has a tradition. Every year, when there comes the New Year, they do a thorough cleaning. They take everything off the floor.
Okay.
And everything clean. So that's also a way of fire prevention.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. When if you have a fire in your home and your home is cluttered, that's a problem only because if you had to escape in a hurry, you might not be able to. And so definitely keeping your home clear of clutter. And now that's not easy for everybody to do, and I understand that. But if you think of it in perspective of the ability to get out of my house, not just if it was a fire, but if there was an earthquake and you needed to get out of your house, could you do that? Are the exits blocked? We want people to be able to get out of their home and get to a safe spot. If you can't do that because there's too much stuff in your home, that's a problem. And we want people to address that. Now, we don't go into people's homes and enforce a code that it has to be clean. We're trying to impress upon people to do that on their own so that they're safe.
All right, very good. My dear friends, my lovely audience, those are all very important tips. We understand that you rather do prevention than firefighting, which is although necessary, but that's your last resort, right? But right now, when you can prevent, though, do something to prevent, right? So we'll take a short moment now. When we come back, from that on, we'll stretch ourselves to way of escape.
Okay.
How about that, right?
Sure.
Stay with us, please. Hello, dear friends, lovely audience, and welcome back to the show, Jack Chow, on the East West Show with ICT TV. With me today is my friend from Monterey Park Fire Department, that's Division Chief Matthew Haylock, sharing his 20 years of experience serving in the department. We're talking about the heroism, we talk about danger at site, on site, firefighting, and we talk about the prevention fire, right? So now let's mix them together. In a situation, we face some situation, for example, in a room, well, there goes a fire. Well, we're talking about way of escape. So how do you recommend, please?
Well, we recommend that our community have an escape plan. And whether it be a fire, whether it be an earthquake, is to have a plan in place so you know where to go and how to get out of your home. So if we're talking about a single-story home, it's if you're in the bedroom, I know to go this way, out, and then you come up with a meeting place. Where are we going to meet outside of our home so that I know that everybody's accounted for? And you practice it. It's pointless to have a plan if you don't practice it. So I encourage people when they change their battery in their smoke detector, practice their plan. Do it at the same time. You know, we do that twice a year when we change our clocks. We change our batteries in our smoke detector.
I see.
Practice your escape plan. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated when you have a two-story home, because now we have people on the second floor, and how are they going to get from there down to the first floor and out of their house? So let's say it is a fire or an earthquake that blocked the staircase. How would you get out of your home? Well, they sell products, for instance, they're called window ladders, and you can basically hang them out of the second story window, and it's a ladder that you can climb down from the second story to the first floor and escape. And it's important, if you have a two-story home, to have something like that. And once again, you may not necessarily practice that, but know where it is. You don't want to have that product and tuck it away in a closet that you can't get to.
Oh, you're right.
And so the key is knowing your home, knowing how to escape, know how to get out the path. Now, let's say you're in a movie theater and something happens. You know, in most commercial businesses, you'll see signs throughout that say, this is the escape route. Okay, so be familiar with that. When you go to a building or a business, you know, take a look around. I'm not trying to scare everybody, but you kind of want to see where would I go if something happened? If there was an emergency here, how would I get out? And so a lot of people at, like I say, a movie theater, they think of, I came in the front, I'm going to go out the front, but there's exits at the back. And so people don't think about those exits. So think about where your exits are, and just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Regardless if you're at home or at a business, just think about your escape route. And if it's at home, we want you to practice it regularly.
That's exactly important. I don't know how everybody else feels about it. Me, myself, I often get into a building somewhere, somehow, walking so deep to somewhere, not recalling how I got in.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, think about it, you know, a big warehouse store that we have. And you're in there, you make your way through your aisles, and you're back in the corner, and something happens.
That's not safe.
It's not safe. And think about also what we call fire load. What's inside that building? You know, there is so much product that if there was a fire, that might block any type of exit you have. So that's a danger of itself. So when you go to these buildings, start thinking, you know, what would I do? And another thing too is if you have small kids, is you don't want to scare your kids and make them afraid to go anywhere, but you want them to know what to do. You want them to know how to call 911. What if something happened to you at your home and you needed help, but you couldn't call 911? So you want to educate your kids, especially young kids, on what to do, where to go, who to call if something were to happen. And especially also at a store, a warehouse store, if you're with you and you became separated, what would you do? You know, and that's just what we call good preparedness, is keeping your family, your loved ones aware of the potential for what could happen and then what to do if it did happen.
When compared to losing your life, though, there's nothing overdone.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Exactly.
So I would rather be oversensitive than having to lose my life.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And that reminds me of one lunch with Bob Lindsay, the last candidate for county sheriff, right? The restaurant is like a rectangle shape. Well, the door is here, and there are booths over there like this, right? He insisted, I said there already, he insisted that I walk up, sit opposite to him, so that he sit against the wall.
Yes.
I said, why you do that? He said, I got a gun. If something goes wrong, I can control the entire thing.
Right.
Right. Plus, you know where your exit out. Right. So is he doing the right thing?
He is, and that's important to know where your exits are. And it's funny that you bring that up because I've been to restaurants on duty, and when I'll see the sheriff, because a lot of times we go to the same restaurants or food places, and you'll see the sheriff, and they're all sitting with their back against the wall.
Yeah.
And that's for the very reason.
I never noticed that until you told me.
Exactly, and so they're aware of their surroundings, of what's happening, because they're looking for potential crime issues. When we go into buildings, we're looking for fire issues. We look for things that could pose a risk to the workers or to the clients that come into this restaurant or this business. That's what we're looking for.
For us, and anywhere we look around, where's my way out?
Right.
Right?
Right.
And in my case, get into deep into the building without remembering how I got in. That's not something right to do.
Right, and that's when we talk about a little bit of preparedness or not fear, but educating your family or kids, because like you said, and it was a very good point, is I'd rather have them be a little more cautious than hurt or the worst. Or the worst.
Even worse.
Right, right.
Okay, suppose that you're blocked in a room and there's fire outside, smoke coming in. So, or you can't jump over the window because it's too tall, right? So there's the door. So what do you want to do to escape? Well, and there's fire and there's smoke outside.
Well, if you're trapped in a room, you're talking about a resident, you need to remain calm. And I know that's easier said than done. But you need to be low. You need to get as low as you can, because obviously heat rises and the smoke. Yeah, so get low to where you can breathe. If you can put your shirt up over your nose, that will help filter a little bit of the smoke. Not a lot, but it'll help. And then if you can get to the window and open it up and get fresh air, and then more importantly, let people know, hey, I'm trapped.
Okay.
And that's our number one priority.
Yell out.
Absolutely.
Ask for help.
Make yourself as loud as you can, because rescue is our number one priority. We'll put the fire out, okay, and we'll do it safely. But if someone's life is in danger, that takes priority over everything. And
get the life first.
Absolutely. And we'll get that ladder to that window before you know it, to get that person out. But if we don't know they're there, then we have to do what we call a primary search, and that's a systematic search of the house. We go room to room, and that takes time. But that's the only way we can do it to make sure everybody's safe. And unfortunately, the brain needs oxygen to survive. And after 4 to 6 minutes, you start to have irreversible effects. And so it takes us time to find you. And so once we find you, it could be too late. And so if you can open up a window, make as much noise as you can, bang on a wall, do anything to let us know, well, there's somebody in here, and we can go right to that spot. That's what my advice would be.
Some recommended that when there is a hard time or whatsoever, relatively hard to escape, you better stay in the bathroom with water, faucet water, tub water running as much as possible. So that sounds a way to do?
Oh, sure. I mean, obviously, water is going to protect you. And if you can isolate yourself as far away from the fire as you can, but without hiding. You know, we want to be able to find you.
Oh, yeah.
We want to be able to find you.
Yeah, I'm talking about the fact by the time they get there to rescue you, you will burn alive like a turkey.
Sure.
Already.
Right.
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 That's the problem.
Right. And most people succumb to what they call smoke inhalation. So they don't actually get burned. They end up receiving no damage to their lungs. They can't breathe. And that's where the biggest injury comes in. Or they breathe in what we call superheated gas from the fire. So if they're in their bathroom, yeah, that's a safe place to be. But ultimately, we want to make sure we can find them. And that's going to provide them with kind of a last refuge, a place to go. But we don't want them to get so far removed that we can't get to them. So by all means, turn on the water, get in the bathtub. That's going to protect you. But if there's a window there, open it up. You know, make as much noise as you can. Once again, like the same thing with the bedroom. Open up that window, scream, yell, whatever you can to alert firefighters where you are so that we can get there and get you help. But yeah, definitely someplace like that would protect you.
Yeah, a while ago you spoke about understanding building structures, right? I believe in Southern California, most of us live in the wood structure with the stucco wall thing, right? So suppose if you are blocked in the kitchen, whereby you have all kinds of cooking knives, though. You want to knock a hole to get out, you know. Which side of the wall is the strongest? Which side of the wall is the little weaker?
Well, it depends on the structure, but I would say if it's drywall, then yeah, you could break into the drywall by kicking it. And you're going to come across structural members. So you break through one, and then across the other side, you know, so you kick through that one, and then could be your way out. But within kitchens, you know, we're talking tile, so that might, you know, tiled walls are going to be a little bit, probably very difficult to break through. But drywall, if you can find a drywall wall, that would probably be your best bet. But if you're talking about getting to the outside, where you're going to break through drywall to hit stucco, which is like cement. So that'd be very difficult to break through. Now, a firefighter, we have tools to do that, and I carry an axe with me.
Like a big one, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to smash it. A kitchen knife, probably not going to work. So, you know, and most people don't have a big axe or the tools to do that in their home, and it wouldn't make sense to do that. So knowing your escape route, to me, would be the best escape plan to get out. And I understand, you know, that may not be feasible, and that's why, you know, your phone is your lifeline. Call 911, talk to them, let them know where you are. And, you know, if you're in a place that you're not familiar with, give them specifications. You know, like if you're in a big warehouse store, I'm in the section where they sell laundry detergent. And that way we know where you are. So when we pull up on scene and there's something going on in there, we can talk to a worker and say, where's the laundry detergent section? The back right corner. We go right there. So those are some things that
Okay, let's take a moment out. We will be right back. Hello, dear friend, my lovely audiences. Welcome back to the show, Jack Chow, on the East West Show with the ICT TV, talking about fire prevention and talking about escape, right? When you are caught in a situation when there's a fire going on. And now we're in cell phone time, right? What can you recommend that cell phones can be used for purpose of number one, prevention, number two, calling for help, except the traditional call. You call 911, right? That's the traditional call. Is there any way to use a cell phone as at least somewhere to ID yourself or to locate yourself, help people?
Well, yes. And the short answer, yes, because all of the phones today, the smartphones, have that GPS capability to basically pinpoint you within feet. And so what we've seen happen now is we've gone away from the traditional landline at your home. So when someone calls 911, on their home phone, they used to know right where you were. And then we transitioned to the cell phone usage, and that created a little bit of a problem for emergency responders. Where are they? And we don't have that direct line. But now these new phones, the smarter phones, have that capability. So dispatch, if you call 911, they're going to pretty much know right where you are to get the so if you can't talk, but you can at least call 911, keep your phone on with them so that they have that constant contact with you to get the necessary resources, whether it be police, whether it be fire, to you. So absolutely.
Not only to the location, I mean, not only to whereabouts, right?
Right.
But to the specific room or corner or wherever you're hiding.
Well, I don't think we're there yet, technology-wise, but we get pretty darn close. And then once we're there, we have the training to make a systematic search as quick as we can to find you. So it may not be they're in the upstairs bathroom. We know that they're in this home, and we'll have to search accordingly. And hopefully one day we get to that technology, but I don't think we're there yet. But we're close enough to now to where we can get there and get them the help and assistance that they need as quick as we can.
All right, okay. And I don't know if I may ask you, or I can ask you this question.
Okay.
So that is when you're locked in a room, though. First you get the smoke, then later you get the heat, then later you're burned. So what do you die first?
What do you what?
Do you die first?
Well, you die from the smoke.
From the smoke?
From the smoke. If you can't breathe, like I said, you need oxygen to survive. And that smoke takes the place of oxygen. And without oxygen, your brain would starve. That's the food for your brain, oxygen. So that's why it's important to get as low as you can, because the smoke will bank down, what we call bank down, to the point where you need to have your face to the floor and breathe.
Without having to touch the fire, you're dead already.
Correct.
Oh,
yeah, the
my
smoke
God.
is what is probably the number one killer of in structure fires before the fire even gets to them, is they die from smoke inhalation. They can't breathe. It's like drowning in smoke.
On the other hand, when they see those remains or human bodies that sitting there or lying there, and there is no sign of any struggling, that means they're dead already.
They're probably
by the time the fire got them.
Correct.
Oh, I see.
Right.
I see.
Right.
Does that mean that in your house you keep more windows? Would that be way safer?
Well, yeah, definitely have windows to ventilate. So if you did have a fire, you could open up the windows and at least get the bulk of the smoke out. Some people have whole house fans that pull up air and basically send it out into the attic and out into the environment. Not everybody has that. Windows, for sure, but probably the most important thing you can have is a smoke detector. A smoke detector or a carbon monoxide detector, because as soon as that picks up that smoke scent, it alarms. And those seconds before a fire becomes too big are the seconds where you can put a lid on a smoking pot, or if you have an extinguisher, put a small fire out before it becomes a big fire. Or in the middle of the night, you don't even know anything's happening, and if you don't have a smoke detector, it could be too late, and now you're trapped. But if you have that smoke detector, that'll let you know, hey, there's something going on, there's a fire, let's get out and call 911 and get the professionals there to help. That's going to be a lifesaver, and you need to have that, and that's what we encourage very much.
In regular houses, of course, we have the oven, the stove, and the electricity or appliances altogether, right? So, which are the area, or which is the cause that may cause the most of the fires?
I would say cooking fires.
Cooking fires.
A lot of times, and you'd be surprised how many times we go on these calls, people start a pot of water to boil, get distracted, leave to go pick up a child at practice, leave it on, and eventually that water evaporates, and now it's just sitting there heating to the point where it catches on fire, it catches the cabinets on fire, and now we have a fire as a result, or a lot of damage as a result of a cooking fire. So that would probably be our biggest one. In the winter season, people turn on their heaters for the first time, and if they haven't had them serviced, there's a lot of dust that builds up in the course of the year.
Dust.
And that could put, and if they haven't cleaned their air ducts, that potentially could be a risk. and a lot of times that will generate a lot of smoke, and it scares people, and they call 911, and we come out and we do a check. Everything will be okay, but ultimately, if they haven't had their furnace serviced in a while, that poses a risk. A heating of a home could pose a risk. As far as electricity goes, obviously we have new technology, bigger refrigerators, bigger appliances, and so if your electrical system isn't up to code, there could be a short circuit, and then there's a fire in a wall at the outlet, and that's where potentially you may not see a fire for an hour as it burns in the wall, and then it becomes a big issue.
It burns the inside already.
It burns the inside of the wall, the insulation inside the wall, and it gets up into the attic, and now it's in the attic, and it runs the entire length of the home within that attic.
By the time you see it, it's already
almost too late.
Too late.
It could be too late. Correct.
Oh.
And so making sure that your outlets are current. You don't overload your outlets. We have a tendency to want to plug everything into one outlet, and that's not good. And so having surge protectors. So if it is overloaded, it shuts off the power, and that way it protects your home from a potential electrical fire.
All right, that we did not know much. And sometimes we use cell phone, we charge cell phone, right? And some of the chargers caught on fire. Mm-hmm. That's a problem too.
Correct.
Am I right?
Yes, and we, it seems like almost every year a new product will come out. 1 year it was these, almost these roller skates that were electronic, and they were catching on fire. And then cell phones sometimes have the potential. You just never know. And so, making sure that it's, you can reduce the risk around where you charge your phone. So if something did happen, there's not a lot of paper or a lot of clutter that would then from that catch on fire and then potentially spread to the rest of your home. So doing inventory, what we call an inventory of your home, going from room to room and looking for hazards that might catch on fire. A lot of clothes, a lot of paper, a desk or office that's full of materials, just clean it up and make sure that way it reduces the risk for fire in your home. And that goes for the same for the outside of your home. We have these devastating wildfires, and if you have a lot of vegetation built up around your home, that's potential to catch on fire. So clear that out around your home. We call that defensible space. So if you have all these weeds or overgrown bushes, if you cut them down or reduce them, then the likelihood of the fire approaching your home and catching on fire is reduced because you minimized all this vegetation.
Yeah, because you have an open space, right?
Okay. Yes, and that's important if you live in an area where there's wildfire potential, is to reduce that risk around your home of stuff catching on fire. We're in a drought, and we're going to be in a drought for a while. And so taking inventory around your home to reduce the vegetation, the dried out vegetation, the dead tree, cut it down, get rid of it, and that reduces your risk for a fire around your home.
All right, thank you very much for all this necessary information, which quite a bit of which we've never heard of. For example, the wires are burning inside the wall, though. Well, I never heard of that.
Sure.
Right, okay. Anyway, we are going to use a few minutes to get back to the folks out there who become victims of the fires so far. So for them, of course, their houses are gone, right? And their belongings, everything gone. So what are they facing with the system? There is an argument about insurance. Should they cover them? Should they not cover them? There's a big to talk about.
Right, and I think what this boils down to is how the fire started. And this will be a lengthy investigation. Sometimes it could be immediately, and that could be a power line shorted out and dropped and caused a fire. If it's an arson fire where somebody started it intentionally, it could take years to make that determination. So as devastating as these fires are to these people that have lost everything, they still have a long road ahead to rebuild, to deal with their insurance company. And what's really unfortunate is you can rebuild a home, you can buy another car, but you can't replace a life. And these fires, I believe the number is up to 63 people who have died in these fires in this last week. 63 people is it's too much. It's too much. And we can't replace them. You can replace your belongings. And so it's devastating on multiple fronts. We have a loss of life, and we have 250,000 acres that have burned in California. 500 homes or structures have been burned. We have 10,000 firefighters out on the front lines fighting these fires. So there's a long road ahead for recovery for the people that have damaged, and obviously those have lost loved
And
ones.
there are more than 154 or something missing.
Correct. They're still
Those are
searching.
not good signs.
Not good signs. And so we've been tasked in the area. We have specialized equipment that is for searching for people. And we're going to be sending equipment up to those areas to assist the local agencies with searching those areas that are hard to look through. We have we call search cameras that can look through, X-ray, and we can look for people. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, if we're in a recovery mode now, I'm hoping that people are still out there and just unaccounted for, and we can reduce that number to people that have been found and not add to the number of people who have deceased.
All right, good. Okay, my dear friends, to folks up there who become the victims of the fire and who even became lost their loved ones, we show our condolences and we share our thoughts with them. And to us folks who survived, who always survive, and right now we're talking about Southern California, we never got ourselves in the fire though. That doesn't mean that we're okay.
Right.
We have to be vigilant about the fire. We have to do quite a bit of fire protection. So my appreciation goes to Division Chief, that goes to Division Chief Matthew Haylock for his sharing of all the information, and thanks with the support of Fire Department of Monterey Park. To my audience, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.